Currently, the patients who are candidates to receive olaparib are only those who carry a germline BRCA1 or 2 mutation and those patients who have received at least 3 lines of treatment for their cancer. And so it's indicated for recurrent patients in what we term the 4th line of therapy or beyond as a single agent. So that's the current indication for use outside of clinical trials. We're certainly exploring moving use of olaparib earlier in the treatment regimens for patients frontline or at first recurrence, but those are still decisions that are in clinical trials, and we don't have approvals for those as of yet, but that may be forthcoming. And there are a number of other PARP inhibitors under development that are all looking at different insertion of use of their PARP inhibitor into kind of different phases, treatment phases for a patient over time. But as I said, all of those are still investigational and so would require participation in clinical trials. Clinical trials play a critical role in advancing the field and advancing therapies for cancer patients. So at my center, where we offer a number of clinical trials to patients, we really look at our patients as warriors in the Army to advance on cancer and help us get to cures. For ovary cancer, we've done well. We've improved survival over time with better supportive care and good chemotherapy, but we're not curing people, and that's really the goal. So areas where we're actively pursuing clinical trial questions are in the front line, for example. When someone has been diagnosed, we have a very effective chemotherapy regimen that is paclitaxel and carboplatin. Patients almost always respond, not always, but they almost always respond, and then they may be what we think is cancer-free for some period of time, but they recur. And so one question is, how can we prolong that time? Can we keep them from recurring? Can we cure them? Or can we markedly increase the time until they recur? So there are clinical trials looking at this where we're adding PARP inhibitors and other novel agents to that frontline therapy, or following frontline therapy in what we call a maintenance strategy, where it's a low toxicity sort of therapy to try and keep the cancer at bay or keep it from coming back altogether. We have a similar strategy once someone has recurred and they're responding to chemotherapy again. We know they're going to recur again and it's going to come back quicker. Can we prolong that time to recurrence? And so inserting another sort of novel agent, either with chemotherapy or following chemotherapy, to stave off that recurrence is a high unmet need, because we want to use something that's effective but not toxic, because this is the time when patients are off chemotherapy. And so we have clinical trials ongoing in that space, evaluating all sorts of categories of drugs in that kind of post-chemotherapy space. It would be amazing if we could cure people, but at least really markedly improve and prolong the time until the next recurrence. And so clinical trials and participation in clinical trials helps us move the field forward for the next generation. So hopefully we do better for the next generation of patients who unfortunately is diagnosed with this disease. And in the best case scenario, it benefits the patient who gets access to novel drugs before they're available and is kind of on the leading edge, cutting edge of drug development and gains benefit from their participation in a trial as well.